So here's what we're going to be talking about today. I got Bitmo G with me here today because I'm going solo. And whenever I go solo, I have a tendency to talk too fast. And so I always like to have Bitmo G come in here, Bitmo Jillian come in here with me to slow me down. So today, what I want to talk about is the hidden power of LinkedIn newsletters for authors, because this is one of those things where it's not that people are doing newsletters wrong. That's not what I'm talking about today. What I'm talking about today is that people are just like, what? What's a newsletter? Why would I even want a newsletter? They just don't even know anything about newsletters. And so that's what I want to talk about. It's not going to be the how to click here, click here. That's not what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about what is a newsletter and why it's a gold mine for authors. I think authors should have it. And by the way, you do not have to be an author to be with me here today. So this is for anybody, because I just think that's newsletters are one of the most powerful things about LinkedIn. So I'm just going to get stuck in. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. I will try to get to as many as possible. So basically, I'm breaking this up into like 4 parts. And between each part, I'm going to stop and do some Q&A, and then we'll get back and I'll keep going. So I'm here for an hour. We'll see how it goes. So anyways, let's just jump right in. Okay. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, okay, come on. Part 1, why is it worth it for authors? So first of all, we always have to backtrack because we have to think about what's the difference between an article and a newsletter. And maybe even what's the difference between a post and an article. So a LinkedIn post, it's easy. It's text, it's graphics, it's emojis, it's a video. A post is kind of one single thing. So think of it as a post is one single thing. You're doing a video with a little bit of text, or you're doing a graphic with a little bit of text. Sometimes you can do multiple images posts and you can do things like that. But it's usually one idea goes in a post. Whereas an article all of a sudden opens up. Now you go from short form content to long form content with an article. And I do articles. I do articles and newsletters, and I do posts. I do everything here. But an article allows you to kind of level up that a post doesn't have, and that you can put in a video, you can put in a podcast, embed a podcast, you can put links, clickable links that actually go somewhere, as opposed to just like a link in a post. You can actually do a highlighted hypertext link that goes somewhere. So all sorts of cool things, GIFs and images and all sorts of stuff. So that's what you can do with an article. But articles are standalone, meaning it's like a post. It's like people are notified, they see it in the feed. That's it. It's a standalone item. It's one shot. But a newsletter is like an article on steroids, because a newsletter is articles in a series. And LinkedIn allows you actually to do up to 5 newsletters on your personal profile. And you can even do a newsletter. I don't even know what the number is on your company page, but I believe you can do several on your company page as well. So you could just be like a newsletter nut if you wanted to. Now, I already am. I do 2 newsletters. And I'm going to explain why I do 2 newsletters. So please don't let me leave today without telling you that. But I have to tell you, you have to be pretty organized, because when I go to sit and do a newsletter, I have to figure out, is it a standalone article? Is it one of newsletter number 1 that I do, or letter number 3 I do? 2. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. But essentially, it's very, very easy to get mixed up. And all of a sudden I'm writing an article and it goes out as a newsletter, or I'm writing a newsletter and it goes out as the wrong newsletter. So you have to kind of stay focused. But anyways, my suggestion is just start off with 1 newsletter. It took me a long time before I was ready to do 2. So, okay, let's move along. Okay, so why should you do a newsletter in the first place? Okay, newsletters. Oh, hang on a minute. I just want to backtrack a little bit. The other thing, so just like how the article is standalone, a newsletter is not standalone because it's part of a series. But even more important, it gets notified. You get notifications sent out when you do a newsletter, but you also get an email notification that goes out to subscribers. So that's something that an article does not have. A newsletter goes out of LinkedIn into people's email inboxes. And that is a critical, amazing thing about newsletters. So I want to make sure I don't miss that. So why even do a newsletter? So newsletters really help you build authority. And if you're an author, you've already built authority with your book, but a newsletter continues that authority. It just kind of keeps it alive and going out and going on. And it builds your authority with both the people that read your newsletter, that subscribe to your newsletter, but it also goes out to search engines. So it goes out to Google search. It now goes out to AI. And we want to make sure that when people are going to AI or people are going to Google, they learn about us. They learn about our expertise. So it's a great way to build the authority that if you're an author, you've already established with your book, but keep that going forward, that this person is the go-to. Now, this is a fabulous article. And actually, this is really why I decided to do this live in the first place, because when this article came out, I was like, wow. So this is an article that LinkedIn actually published, and it was one of the VPs of marketing of LinkedIn. If you have not read this article, go ahead and scan the QR code or, long icky URL there at the bottom. I'll pop it in later into the comments, and so anybody can click on it. But this article had some amazing information about LinkedIn and how to leverage LinkedIn for AI visibility. And authors and non-authors alike, everybody is looking for AI visibility. It's so important. And so LinkedIn is now the number one most cited domain for professional queries. That means when people have a business question, a professional question, LinkedIn is the citation back that AI serves. And so you think about it, it's like, wow, if you want to be known, you want to be seen to the AI gods, you want to do stuff on LinkedIn. And so LinkedIn actually broke it down and said articles, so that's articles and newsletters, because newsletters are articles, of course. Articles count for roughly 60% of LinkedIn content citations. That's huge. Posts only account for 40%. So the majority of time, AI is going to be pulling from articles. And you might say, well, why? Why articles? Why? Because AI likes structured data. It likes, you have your headline, you have subheadings, you have bullets. It's so easy for AI to scan through your article because you're going into more depth. There, it's easy because it can take that structure and then put it into a query. Whereas a post, sometimes posts are just a couple of lines, a few emojis here and there. It's not a lot of substance to a post. So you can kind of understand why this is such a big deal. So I love that. Newsletter articles free you from the LinkedIn algorithm. And the reason why I told you a couple seconds ago, that's why I want to go back and make sure that you understood. You get emails when people subscribe to an article, they are now going to get that as an email. Now, in all honesty and transparency, people can opt out. They can say, I don't want to get emails with articles, and that's okay. Then they'll only see them in the LinkedIn feed, and that's okay. But I know this is one I just got the other day from Michelle J. Raymond. I don't necessarily see a lot of her posts in my feed anymore. I just don't, but I get her newsletters. I get her newsletter. So I'm always aware of what she's doing. And I find I do that for a lot of people where I rung their bell, I double rung their bell, and I'm still not seeing their content. But her stuff conveniently goes into my email inbox and I can read it. And if it looks good, I click read it on LinkedIn because LinkedIn is very, very clever. They don't give you the whole article. They just give you a truncated version, sort of like the juicy bits at the beginning. So that's why it's very good to front load your article and make sure it's good. And then there's a button that says keep reading on LinkedIn. Join the conversation. And so if I kind of scan it and I go, ooh, this looks like a good one, I click and I go over to LinkedIn and I read it, and then I can like it and comment and do all sorts of things. So that is the beauty. You're going to see the full enchilada once you get to LinkedIn, because if there's videos and all sorts of different things, you're going to see all that once you hit LinkedIn. And I'm a video nut. Obviously, I do these LinkedIn lives. So you guys know I love videos. And that's what I love about LinkedIn articles and LinkedIn newsletters, is that they love multimedia. You can embed a video. You can embed like a YouTube video or a Vimeo video. Now you can even upload native video. So it doesn't even have to be hosted anywhere. You can just upload it directly to your article. You can embed GIFs, and I think those are really fun. I love seeing GIFs, and they move around and they're just so fun. And it's a great way to break up a wall of text, because I got to be honest with you guys, I'm a real visual person. So if I see a newsletter and it's just text, I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to read all this. But if the text is broken up with some videos or some graphics or some GIFs, that just kind of gives me the eye candy I need to go through and read it. But you can do more. You can add in a podcast. You can go ahead and embed the audio so that you just click and listen to the podcast while you're reading the article, which is just brilliant. Same with if you're embedding videos, you're not popping out to YouTube, you're watching the video in the article. So it's amazing. You can add pull quotes and yada, yada, yada. It goes on and on. So there's so much that you can add. Dividers. You can make your text bold. You can go ahead and make your text slanted, change the font size, all sorts of different things. So really, newsletters love multimedia, which is great. Now, here's the drawback that a lot of people say is, but do you get the email addresses of the people that subscribe to your newsletter? So here's one of mine. I got 5,000 subscribers, but I do not have their email address. And that's when a lot of people kind of throw up their hands and say, well, I'm not going to build I'm not going to build it on a rented property, and LinkedIn is rented property because I don't get the emails, blah, 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 blah. And off they rumble away. Well, here's the thing. You get their profiles. So I can pull this up, and out of my 5,000 subscribers, this is a gold mine, because this is people who have raised their hand and said, I'm interested in what Jillian has to say as part of this newsletter topic. So if I am not connected to these people, I could connect with them. If I'm already connected with them, I could message them. This is a treasure trove of contacts of the people that are already saying they're interested in my stuff. And so this to me is really, really worth it, that you can just kind of go through and at least I can check out their profiles. Who is my LinkedIn newsletter resonating with? So I think this is just a fab thing. And speaking of treasure troves, it's also a treasure trove of data. Now, I am the first to admit I am math dyslexic. I see math and I'm like, ooh, I have a hard time with math. But here's the thing, is that you can actually look at the analytics and data, and LinkedIn actually makes it pretty easy to digest. It's not spreadsheets, although you can actually download it to a spreadsheet. So if you want to geek out with spreadsheets, you can. But I can go and look at a particular issue and I can see, okay, how did it do? So this particular one was about LinkedIn Premium. Is it worth it for authors? This is actually my highest, I think, out of my top 3 posts for the whole year. This ended up being my highest form of engaging content. And this thing went bananas. It got so many impressions. It reached so many people. And I'm even told the stats on how many people in my network, how many people outside of my network. This went to a lot of people outside of my network. And it tells me what what happened in terms of profile views? Did people go and view my profile? And did I even get new followers as a result of this? So, if you're into the data, you could go through and really begin to see which ones are working, which ones are not working, and, really go to town with, okay, going forward, I need to do more of this and I need to do less of this. So I think that's just brilliant. So I'm going to pop over now and we're going to take some comments so that I'm not alone here today. So I always have Jeff Young. He's always for me in the front row of YouTube, letting me know that I am there. So yay, thank you, Jeff. And he's here today saying hi to Kathy York. So I always love when people are here networking and saying hi to everybody. We have Mike. He says, cannot wait. Good to see you, Jeff. So they were all in the green room. Well, I guess not the green room, but the pre-party live. These guys were all, and oh, look at that. Jeff is always so nice, putting links in for my books and stuff. Thank you, Jeff. That's nice. And they're saying hi to each other. Yay, yay. We have Marcia here. She's always come in from DC, and we have a shared love of books and libraries and everything else. You are live. Thank you for whoever told me that. Thank you. Because that was just really weird. It was just like, I don't know. I think I hit a wrong button today, which I am want to do. So Sandy says, hi, Jillian, you are definitely live. Okay. Thank you. And Jeff says, you are. Yolanda is here. Thank you. All these people telling me I live. Yes. Just came in on mobile. So yay. That's good to hear. Good to hear. And I love this about lives, that people come here and they say hi to each other. It's wonderful. Diane is here. Nice to see you, Diane. David is here. Wonderful topic. Thank you. More, everybody's saying hello. And I love it. I love it. There is a party. Oh, somebody says I was frozen, or is it just me? Okay. And somebody says it's smoky in Virginia. It's smoky in Virginia. So look, so that's good. That's good. And we have Linda Brubaker's here today. Such great information from LinkedIn on the reach of LinkedIn content. It absolutely is. And, we need to be paying attention to that, because it's like we were always guessing. We're guessing at what LinkedIn does. And now LinkedIn is starting to tell us this is how you need to be, this is what's getting you found. And so I think we need to take advantage of that and, not just be like, oh, okay, whatever. Okay. So I'm going to go back and continue on while you're all saying hi to each other. Okay. So, I'll turn Linda off for a second. Okay. So when you're ready, grow first. So this is what I want to talk about is, when should you actually, because, maybe I've just convinced you that it's like, okay, Jillian, you've convinced me. I want to do a newsletter. I'm going to roll up my sleeves and get cracking. And I'm going to say, wait. The reason why I'm going to say wait is because I want to talk about some distinct features that LinkedIn has that you might not be aware of. And this actually is going to impact your timing. So LinkedIn does something which is an amazing thing. I love it, which is called an auto invite feature. And what that is every time somebody follows you, if you have a newsletter, LinkedIn will just send a little notification and they'll just say, hey, Jillian invited you to subscribe to her, and it puts the name of the newsletter. And then the person can either ignore it or they can accept it. So this is a great way to continue to grow. This is not you sending it out. LinkedIn is doing this for you automatically. But here's where it ups the ante. The very first time that you do a newsletter, and this is a one-time only thing, the very first time you do a newsletter, LinkedIn is going to send out this auto invite feature. It's going to send an auto invite feature or auto invite to everybody who is following you. And they only do it once per newsletter. So if you do a second newsletter, they do the same thing. But the thing is that you want to make sure that you're using your golden ticket, because it's like LinkedIn is saying, hey, we're giving this person a gold star. They're doing something. I don't know anything else that LinkedIn actually promotes you like this. LinkedIn seems to love newsletters. Now, if you were like me and you got on board with newsletters when they kind of first got, tripped, everybody was doing a newsletter at the same time. So it was like people were burning out. They were just like, they got like 1 million in their inbox and they were just like, oh, overload, overload. But it's not like that anymore. Now it's like if you go to do your newsletter tomorrow, it's like you're just you. It's just you. It's not 1 million people all at the same time. We're all going at our own pace. But the thing is, think about your network. You don't want to use up your golden ticket if you don't have anybody yet. So I always say, don't launch to an empty room. If I went ahead, if you only had like a few followers at this point, you're wasting your ticket. Grow the room first. And so this is the profile I use in presentations all the time when I'm talking about LinkedIn. This is a real one. I don't know if it exists anymore, but it existed last December when I was putting some slides together. And it's Jonathan Snow. Crazy, it's in Texas of all places, because I'm in Texas, with like, the blank head, the blank banner, and 0 followers. And it's like, he does not want to start a newsletter because he's wasting his golden ticket. So wait and grow the room first. So you might say, okay, so how many people do I have to have? I would suggest at least 500 followers. Ideally, if you're kind of can hang on a little bit, grow to 1,000, because it's like the more you have, the more sort of you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. So that's what I would suggest, because remember, it's a one-time thing. And you want to make sure that first edition is really good, because if people subscribe, you want to keep them, in your loop. So anyways, don't go to an empty room. All right. So now I'm going to go back to the comments and see where we're at with people. So I love it. David says the AI gods. It's so true. And ringing the bell. Yeah. And as much as we ring the bell and double ring the bell, it doesn't mean that we always see people, which is so disappointing. Oh, we have Nicole. We actually met yesterday for the first time. So that was really fun. So thank you for coming here today, Nicole. Thank you for being here. So Jeff says, oh, the live is being a little glitchy today, freezing and repeating, but still okay. And the great content, great info. So thank you very much. And if it's too glitchy for you, I give everybody permission, come back on the replay, because the replays always work. So that's always so good. That's always so good. And aesthetically pleasing things draw us in. Yes, yes. And an email link really helps with the interaction funnel, wide open opportunities. That is so true, because it's just like bypassing that algorithm. I cannot say enough about that. That's so good. And Sandy says, yep, it quit right out for me. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. So Jeff says, I always reminded folks who subscribe that I don't get their email so that I don't get any spam from me. Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. And, so anyways, oh, wait a minute. Jeff says something about analytics. Analytics on, in, and out of network is a new feature and currently rolling out. So good stuff. Yeah, I didn't know. So maybe that's not available to anybody, but I think it's really interesting to see who we're reaching, because sometimes we're reaching just people in our sort of, I call it our LinkedIn bubble, just the people we know. But when we get out and we can be in front of other people, that's where we're actually building like new leads. That's where new people see us and more people are prone to follow us and stuff. So I think that's really good. And so far, what I've seen going through my newsletters, when I see the ones that are having a more reach outside of my network, I'm finding I'm getting more followers from them and more profile views. And at the end of the day, that's what I want. That's why I'm doing all this stuff in the first place, is because ultimately I want to show my expertise. And of course, I want more business. That's what we all want. We want more business. So that absolutely makes sense. Okay. So I'll go back and pick up where I left off. Okay. So this is really, really important, folks. You always want to start with your promise. Okay. Because it's like and you need to do this exercise before you start coming up with, oh, what shall I name my newsletter? And, all the things, the shiny objects that we all start thinking about. I want you to stop for a minute and think about your promise, because that's, to me, the important thing. think of your reader first, because at the end of the day, everybody is tuned in to radio station WIIFM, which is What's in It for Me. And that's what we do. We look through the lens of everything in life with what's in it for me. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about a book, a newsletter, your LinkedIn content. It's like we are always looking through this filter of how is this going to help me? Because we don't just read content for content's sake. Nobody's just going, well, I'm bored. I think I'll just read stuff on LinkedIn. No, I want to read stuff that somehow is going to help me in my life or my business or et cetera, et cetera. So just remember, that's a really important filter. And if you're an author, I want you to realize you've already done this for your book because, well, hopefully you've done it for your book, because a book that is for everybody is actually for nobody. And whenever I'm working with my clients, I always tell them, who is your book for? And it might be, my book is for, I'll take Jeff Young as an example. His book is for newbies. His book is for people who come on LinkedIn and they're new and they kind of been rambling around and they don't know how to be effective. They're just on here going, I don't understand how any of this works. The people really scratching their head. And so Jeff goes out and he does workshops and he helps job seekers and other people. And he goes out and he does all these wonderful things to help people be more effective because he's a LinkedIn guru. He likes to just teach and help people. And so his book, he narrowed that down to helping people making LinkedIn easier. So it's like, really think about who your book is for. You want to do the same thing with your newsletter. So I always do this. I think of the archery example of you have an arrow and you're an archer and you're shooting the arrow at the target. And so when you're writing a book, you're always aiming for dead center, which is your ideal reader. And doesn't mean other people can't read your book, but it just makes sense to aim for that ideal reader because that way your book is for that one person. They got me. They understand. You're aiming for that ideal person. But sometimes not everything is the same. And so what's interesting is that I say sometimes with a newsletter, I actually tell you to go one ring out and not just ideal for just not that one thing in the center. So this is what I'm thinking about. So I'm going to use my own books as an example. So I've done 6 books and Jeff already put the link. So that was really sweet. So I have written 6 books. Out of my 6 books, only 2 of them are actually my ideal client that I'm working with today, which is people who want to write a business book. And so I have 2 books that actually, appeal to that. My 4 other books, they're not about writing books, but they are about visibility. They're about confidence. They're related, but they're not ideally for people that want to write and publish a business book. And so that's why with a newsletter, I tell you, go for the center like you do for when you write a book, but go out one more ring and think about that way other things that you're working on, maybe future projects, could all fall under the same category. So you don't want to go quite as narrow as you did with a book, but you don't want to go to the whole full thing because then you're too broad. So you don't want to be too broad and you don't want to be too narrow. So go for the dead center and then one ring out. So I hope that makes sense. And then thinking back to your reader's promise, I want you to think of it as like your LinkedIn headline, because it's basically the same formula. Think about your newsletter of my newsletter helps who do what so that they can, what's the outcome? So the same thing should be with their newsletter. So for instance, one of my newsletters is about marketing for authors, easy peasy marketing for authors. Okay. So I'm helping authors do what? Market so that they can sell more books, have more opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my reader's promise. And so I always want to be aware of that because if I'm going to start talking about other things, I have to always look at that reader's promise and say, am I going off topic? Because if I'm going off topic, I can go out a little bit, right? Because remember, I told you can go one ring higher, right? But the thing is, I don't want to go so broad that people are like, why is she even talking about this? This is not what I signed up for. So you always want to be aware of that. Are people ever going to say, this is not what I signed up for? Because then they unsubscribe. So I hope that kind of makes sense. So before I go on to part 4, I'm going to go back to my comments here and see what people have to say. Okay, so Nicole says, no platform is going to do all the work for us. Good, we can review and research profiles. Absolutely. And, the beauty is that your LinkedIn newsletter doesn't have to replace what else you have. So if you have your own newsletter that and you should have a newsletter. Like, I wouldn't tell people give up your regular newsletter and do the LinkedIn one instead. No. Do your regular newsletter and a LinkedIn newsletter. And if you're on Substack, do your Substack as well. Each one is going to serve a different purpose and a different function and might have a different theme and a different audience as well. So those are things to really think about. Mosen says, we are with you, Jillian. Thank you. Debbie says, I love the combined visibility I receive with my newsletter, which is published by Constant Contacts and repurposed as a LinkedIn newsletter. And the analytics are awesome. Yes, those analytics are amazing. Absolutely amazing. And David said, suggestions for newsletter topics, repeat topics, very interested, but struggling with content, scared. And that's true. I would say that a couple of things you could Google and first of all, think about just your frequently asked questions. What do people ask you when they work with you? What are those questions? Because if you can make an article about that, questions make for awesome articles. And for instance, the one that did really well for me was, should authors have LinkedIn Premium? Should they or shouldn't they? That was the question. And that turned into a live. I took the live, repurposed that, and I made it one of my newsletter issues. And that's the one that did the most. So sometimes just a question and your answer to the question and your thoughts on that question, that's all you need to do. So think of it like that. It's like, okay, what are the questions that I get asked in my business? And you can also just go and leverage other people's questions by doing a Google Trends search. You can also use a tool, answerthepublic.com. You can go through that and see what kind of questions people are asking. So, just think, what is my expertise? What do I want to be known for? And then what are the questions people ask with regard to that? So I hope that helps. So Sherry says, grow the room to how many followers, your suggested number. So I said between 500 and 1,000. That's my suggestion. And, whenever you kind of feel comfortable within that range, but I definitely would wait and not do it less than 500 because you really want to use that auto invite, that first blast out. You want to make sure you got the rocket fuel to really get it going. So Jeff says, David Koss, perhaps you could use a newsletter to do a monthly recap of your LinkedIn posts. That is an excellent way of, and I suggest that for a lot of people, that it's like, if you weren't sure what to do, if you have been doing posts all month, you could always, summarize those posts. You could create links back to those posts. See, that's the beauty of an article or a newsletter, is that you can actually have an embedded text and go back to the post. You can actually even embed the post within it. Always looks a little weird. So I'm not sure I 100% love doing that, but you can just do a roundup, a summary, because you have to remember, people probably didn't see all your posts and they might appreciate knowing, hey, this is what they talked about this month. This works good. So I do that for my podcast. That's my second newsletter. And my podcast, all I do is for my podcast newsletter, I just say, here's who was on my show this week. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's a guest. This is what we talked about. I embed the episode. And in case you missed it, here you go. Or here's how you can actually click out and listen to it on Apple and all the other players. So, and then I say, here's the takeaways from the show, saying this is why you might want to do it. So it's kind of like a teaser. I think like Netflix, I just want to give people a taste of what I talked about on the podcast. And if it's for them, great. And if it isn't, that's okay. Then that way they might have said, oh, I missed that you did an episode on that. That's really good. People can now go back and browse and see okay, I saw when Jeff Young was on the show. What did they talk about? And you have that. Or, I can see, so-and-so was on the show. What did they talk about? You get that good little summary. And by embedding the podcast, they can just listen to it in the moment. So it's just a really good thing that you can do that. Debbie says the auto invite. What if you've been doing newsletters on LinkedIn for a while? Is there a way to get LinkedIn to initiate the golden ticket of auto invites? I'm not sure about that, Debbie, because I have seen lately that all of a sudden LinkedIn is recommending newsletters for people who have been doing newsletters for a long time. And the thing is, I don't know who LinkedIn is choosing. I don't know if LinkedIn is just, people who are already doing really well and they want them to do even better. I probably, that probably would be some good sleuthing to kind of go and see who is LinkedIn recommending. Of course, you can recommend yourself. So you could always do that. You can take your newsletter, and if you go to your featured section, you can actually add newsletter, and it's a featured item in your featured section. And so that's a good way to do it so that people see that, because your featured items, when I had Jen Kokorin on my live recently, she talked about use those links, link out to your website, linked out to your discovery calls. And I would say, put in your newsletter, because people might say, I didn't know you did a newsletter. So that might be a good thing. So those are some things. But yeah, I don't know the magic of how LinkedIn is deciding who gets those extra golden tickets. I raising my hand, pick me. Bland brand. I love that. You answered it. Thank you. You rock. Love that. So Jeff says, Debbie, I don't think so, but you could use your email list to send a link to subscribe to your own newsletter. Yes. And actually I do. I subscribe to my own newsletter so that I do get that email. So that's a great little hack, because every once in a while I was just like, am I getting it or I'm not getting it? So it's just kind of interesting to know about that. And so David says, this is serious. Nick is here. And Kathy's here, live, working fine in Upper Indiana. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so let's go back to where I was. Okay, so strive to deliver value always, because you don't want to lose subscribers. So you always want to make sure that you're just doing the right thing. So first of all, I write my newsletters like they're blog posts. That's what I do. I don't kind of say, okay, here's what I'm doing in my life. My stuff is always, I think like Google. I'm a Google goddess, so I've always thought like Google, but I like to think like Google, and I like to think like ChatGPT, because to me, it's really important that my newsletters are going to have me seen as an expert. That's my goal. That's why I want to do newsletters. I want to be seen as the obvious choice. I want people to know who I am. I want Google to know me. I want ChatGPT to know me. I want to be seen as an expert. So I always think of each issue that I make, it's like, how do I blank? I always think in terms of questions. So that's my focus when I'm doing newsletters. So, are you Googleable? Are you Googleable? And what about your book? So people say, well, what about my book? Because I'd like to include my book. It is okay to drip about your book, I think. And when you launch, put that launch in the newsletter, because you're probably doing something of value anyways, because many of us, when we launch a book, we have a promo price. Why wouldn't you want to tell everybody on your list that it's like, oh, I launched my book and it's only 99 cents today, something like that. That's a good thing. Recently, somebody I know launched a book and I missed the promo, and I'm like, dang, I could have got it like 99 cents, and now I got to go pay 9.99. So it was just like, I wish they'd put it in their newsletter because I would have acted on it, but I didn't know. So I think it's okay to tell people about your book, but always add value. So I was reading a newsletter this morning, and this woman was talking about how she's working on, doing an audio version of her book. And so, she was going through that. And she said that she goes, I'm struggling to do it. And I was thinking, do I need to make changes? How much should I change in my book? And she was kind of like overthinking it and kind of going down a rabbit hole. And so, anyways, she started asking Claude and ChatGPT, is there anything out there that will actually read my book out loud to me? And then I can hear it, because if I could hear somebody else read the book, then I'd know, is it good enough that I should record it now and it be, good enough to put out there as an audio book, or is this just going to sound really awful? So it was just kind of that, we overthink things and we worry about stuff, and, imposter syndrome and all that good stuff. So anyways, there is actually a program called Speechify. It's not free. It's like you get a free trial, but you got to sign up with a credit card. So I didn't actually look at it, but it's like $11 a month, whatever. So maybe it's worth it to you. And you can put a PDF and it will read it back to you, and you can choose the voices. So one of the voices you can choose is Gwyneth Paltrow, which is kind of like, she's a famous, movie star. So it's like, oh, I'd like to hear Gwyneth Paltrow read my book back to me. Not that you would ever use that as an audio book, but just for herself. This person said, I wanted to hear it. I'm going on a road trip and I wanted to listen to my own book to just see if it was good enough. And so she had Gwyneth Paltrow, and she says, my book's awesome. So now I'm committed. I'm going to go and do an audio version. Well, she created value, but she's dripping about her book ever so slightly, telling us her book is available right now in paperback and ebook. And she's now committed to doing it in audio, and it's going to be out in the fall and blah, blah, blah. So she's dripping about her book, but adding value, because she's kind of doing that behind the scenes at the same time. So that's how I like to think about it. If you can just do a little bit of a value add, it's perfectly fine to talk about your book. But here's where I draw the line. Do not make your newsletter all about you. If we got your newsletter and your newsletter had nothing on the radio station, What's in It for Me, right? WIIFM. If it was all about you, I did this, I did that, I got 6 new clients, I'm making this, I'm speaking here, I'm doing this. If there's no value and it's just a brag fest, guess what? Bounce. I am not going to listen to you. But it doesn't mean that you can't make some of it about you. Maybe you want to put that at the end. By the way, this is where I'm going to be speaking, and I'm offering a discount, or I was on a couple of podcasts this past month, and here's the links if you want to go listen. But tell them why they should listen. It's like, I spoke about blah blah blah, and it's like, ooh, I'd like to hear that. That sounds really good. So, if you put something about you, still frame it through the What's in It for Me. So that's just something to think about. But certainly you don't want to make it all about you, but it's okay if some of it's about you. So I hope that makes sense. And again, just always put something through that What's in It for Me filter, and just say, does this add value, or is this just like bragging? Just be honest with yourself, because if I wrote a whole thing, I did that the other day. I was on a podcast. I thought I would write an article about being on the podcast, and I wrote it all up, and it was like blah blah blah. And then I just went, Jillian, that's a lot of it's about you. You need to go back and rewrite this, girl. And I went and I decided that I would write it from, this is what the host and I talked about. And I talked about her as much as I talked about me. I made it a discussion about the both of us, and that hopefully it was relatable to the reader. And then one extra step, I went, this doesn't fit in the reader's promise of either one of my 2 newsletters. So what do I do with this? And I said, I will turn it into an article. I will just make it a standalone article because I think it has value, but it doesn't fit within either one of my newsletters. So that's just a little sort of decision tree. I overthink things, but sometimes I think it's good to overthink things and always just, if it doesn't pass that filter of what's in it for me, for the reader, just have a little bit of a rethink. So in terms of frequency, I recommend, this is just my 2 cents and Bitmo Jillian's 2 cents too. I recommend you aim for once a month. I know some people, they go weekly. There's some people that go daily and you're like, what are you thinking? And you just have to think about the people on the other side. I don't have time to read a daily newsletter from even the people I love the most on LinkedIn. I just don't have enough hours in my day. So if they inundated me each day with a newsletter, I'd probably unsubscribe because I'd just say, you're cluttering up my inbox. I don't want this. So how I like to think about it is, what's the frequency I like? I like to see things maybe once a month, maybe twice a month. So think about it. If you do once a month and then you over deliver and maybe do twice a month, then that's great because you can just say, okay, let's go for once a month. But if I have something extra, then I'll just do 2 times that month. And that's kind of what I do. If I have a little extra thing and I'm like, oh, I think this would be good for my readers, I'll add this as well. Then I do 2 that month. But mostly I just recommend once a month. Now with my podcast, that's different. It's shorter and I do once a week because I have a podcast episode drop once a week. But I try to make that a quick read for people. I should probably even trim it down even more. So sometimes more is less. And I probably need to just do some of that myself. Make it as tiny as possible so that people can read it and get on with their day. So, but anyways, for anybody starting out, once a month is probably best for your reader, and it's probably best for you because it's hard. It does take some time to put together a good newsletter. If you only have the commitment of once a month, that's much better than being a ghost town. And we see that with people. It's like they send us newsletter, and then they disappear for like 6 months. And then when they do another one, they start off with, yeah, I know it's been a while since I did a newsletter. And it's like, and then they'll do a bunch for like a few days and they disappear for months and months. I had somebody once come back after like a year and they were just like, I don't even know who you are anymore. And that's the thing. You're not staying top of mind if you're a ghost town. So don't do that. It's much better to go for that once a month as opposed to, I'm going to do it every single week. And then you're a ghost town after the 3rd issue because you're just like burnt out. So just know your limits and please don't be that ghost town. Okay. So one last thing, and then I'm going to go and take comments. So one last thing. And I'm really sorry to say this because I think I'm going to ruffle feathers with this one, but I want to tell you, try to avoid copy and pasting your entire newsletter. So what I want you to think about if I do a newsletter on LinkedIn and I'm also on Substack, do I want to copy and paste my exact newsletter on Substack? Because first of all, now I've got duplicate content out there. So that's something to think about. And you have to think about, well, what about the people who are on Substack that already know me on LinkedIn? They're like, why am I getting this duplicate newsletter? This doesn't make any sense to me. Same thing with if I'm on your email list. If you send me an email and then I see your newsletter on LinkedIn and it's exactly the same, I'm just kind of like, this is weird. I've already read all this. I'm going to unsubscribe from one of them because now it's not valuable for me. You've actually sent me too much of the same thing. It's like, why am I getting this twice? So think about the different platforms and what they serve. Now, I would always say, go with your own email list first. That is the most important one. That's the one that you own. You're probably paying for MailChimp or ConvertKit or Constant Contacts or all the different MailerLite, whatever is free, but you're probably paying for that. And so that is the one you've nurtured. That's the one that you're private. People have said, I'm allowing you into my, they're not opting out. Like the LinkedIn people can opt out and say, I don't want you in my email inbox. I'll still be a subscriber. They can opt out. But your email people that are taking your emails, they're saying they want to hear every single thing that you have to say, or else they would be unsubscribing. So if you take that content, then think about in LinkedIn, is all this relevant for my LinkedIn audience as well? Because all of a sudden, is Google going to want to hear all that stuff? Does AI want to cite all that stuff? Are you actually showing your expertise by putting every single thing you put in your email one into your LinkedIn one? So think about that. And I'm not saying you have to throw out everything, but maybe you might look at it and say, well, you know what? The LinkedIn people probably don't need to know this and they don't need to know this. So just cut away the stuff you don't need. And then you might say, okay, but this stuff, this is really, really important. This should go in my newsletter on LinkedIn, and maybe I'll supplement it because LinkedIn will allow me to put some video in there. Maybe I want to do a screen share video to go with this, or maybe I want to put some GIFs to go with this, or maybe I actually want to expand on this. And so this is where, again, go and get some help with AI, because AI might take whatever you've said in your newsletter and help you kind of go a little bit more in depth. Because you might say, well, I'd also want to talk about this, this, and this. Or maybe you want to talk about a case study, or maybe you want to share some screenshots or something that goes with what you're talking about. So, and the same is true with Substack. With Substack, I'm on Substack now. I'm growing it very slowly. I'm not really sure what I want to do over there, but I decided that I would produce different content on Substack because I think I'm going to have a different audience. So I talk about more personal things from a more personal, here's what I'm thinking about. These are things that are important to me. I talk a lot about the books I read because that's really important to me. And that, I don't know who I'll get from that, but it's a different audience with a different vibe. So think about how every room, every social media platform, it has a different vibe, and just make sure you're not doing 100% copy and paste from one into the other, because it might be the wrong vibe for the room. So I know I might ruffle feathers talking about that, but it's just something to think about. And then this last thing, don't cheat your readers. This Karen Tisdale, who is my buddy over in Australia, she wrote this LinkedIn post, and I thought it was brilliant because she talked about how so many people are doing this. They have gone over to Substack, but they're still on LinkedIn. So they're kind of like straddling two platforms. And I get it, reach is down on LinkedIn, and a lot of people are getting frustrated, and a lot of people are saying, I'm going to Substack. But what they're doing is they're fishing in the LinkedIn pond and then doing stuff over to Substack. So here's what's happening. And Karen called it out, and she got a lot of comments on this, and I was one of them. I thought it was a fabulous post. And she said, I'm reading your newsletter on LinkedIn, right? And imagine I got it on an email. So I'm reading the email and I go, oh, this is a good thing. I want to read this. So I click, and now I've gone over to LinkedIn. So now I'm reading your whole newsletter on LinkedIn. And then about halfway through, you pull a bait and switch and you tell me, you want to read the rest of this? Hop on over to Substack. And there's a link to go to Substack. And I'm like, I've already clicked the link to go from my email to LinkedIn. And now you're asking me to go to Substack. And then I get to Substack and I got to sign up for Substack. And maybe you're doing a email list that like I have to pay, because that's the thing about Substack. You can have a free email list and you can also have a paid email list. And so now all of a sudden I got to pay like $97 a year to read your flipping article. And I'm like, no. So Karen called it out, and I champion her for that. So I just say, don't cheat your readers. If you might say, hey, I take a deeper dive with this on Substack. If you kind of want to know my personal opinions, because I'm not comfortable saying it here, just that's one thing. And just say, if you're on Substack, check me out, or this and this, but don't get me to like, okay, now you're at the cliffhanger and I'm not going to tell you the rest of the stuff. I've already invested my read. So anyways, don't cheat people. Okay. So to sum it up, grow your audience first, 500 to 1,000. Always tune in to radio station WIIFM. Aim for the bullseye center, but one ring out. So that way you can grow and have future projects, and it can cover extra things that you do in your business. One time a month is more than enough. And always remember to be kind to your readers. Okay, so that sums it up for me today. And I am going to still stay and do some comments. So let's see who we've got. Okay, so I love everybody saying hi to each other. So Linda Brubaker says, Jeff Young, the analytics information on in and out of network views and engagements sounds like a great feature. Do you know if it will be rolled out to everyone or paid users? Everyone. I am on the free plan. So if I got it, everybody gets it. So that's really nice to know that, and I'm telling you what I have found out is my content is going on average 60% to out of network and 40% in network. So I don't know exactly why, but that's what I'm finding. Okay, so Annette says, yes, radio station WIIFM all the way for all of us. So I love that. I love that, Annette. Thank you. Linda, I am a free user and I have it. So there we go. I'm not just the only one. Perfect point. What's in it for me? It's so important. It's so important. Jeff Young, we use a couple of ways to reach out. I'm just curious if there's an option. Okay. Linda says, Mike, thanks. I will have to check it out. David, focus content, top shelf tip. Yeah. And always, David, feel free to send me a DM. I'm happy to bounce ideas with you and help you come up with some ideas. And, again, just think about what are some things over and over again people are asking for, because that's going to help you, get cited in Google and at ChatGPT and all the rest. Debbie says, our newsletter gets repurposed to all our platforms. Okie doke. Okay. Jeff says, I believe it will. He's on the free account. Annette says, so happy I get to see you today, girlfriend. Thank you for being here, Annette. That's nice. That's sweet. What's the difference between an article and a content-rich post? Okay, well, my feeling is that a post can still only have one element. It's a video. It's a video. That's it. If it's a GIF, it's a GIF. You can, if it's images, it's single images or multi-images. Whereas an article can have all of those in one thing. So to me, that's the difference between a content-rich post. A content that's not rich would be probably just a text post, nothing. So you can do text posts, you can do emojis, and then of course you can do polls and all sorts of different things. It would be nice if you could do my headphone came out. It would be nice if you could actually do polls and, all sorts of different things. And I do have to say, that's one thing that I think is really cool about Substack. You can actually do some extra things that I really wish LinkedIn would allow us to put in, like buttons, and, you can add in all sorts of different things. You can also add pull quotes to a LinkedIn article. So that's another thing as well. And I do that a lot, where you can kind of make those quotes stand out. And I think that's really cool. So I hope I answered that question. Okay. Jeff says articles, newsletters are always larger and far more reaching. Yes. And it's very, very interested. I know I said it earlier, but I really love with articles that you see how many people see them, And one thing I'm just going to talk about as a caution. Well, I'll save it for another day because maybe it's not relevant. So I won't start going down rabbit holes of new things. Okay. Debbie says, hopefully anyone doing a link on LinkedIn doing a newsletter is storing it under their publications on their profile. Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. I never thought about doing that, Debbie. So that's a really good idea. And also too, here's a little bonus tip for everybody. If you ever do an export of your LinkedIn data, you do like a data export, there's something called articles, which is all of your articles. And so recently I decided to do a project where I said, I'm going to take all of my LinkedIn articles, all of my LinkedIn newsletter articles and standalone articles, and I'm going to put those up on my website. But what I did was I rewrote them. I put a different slant on them. I made them a lot more sort of text oriented. If you've ever read any of my newsletters, you're going to just say, oh my gosh, she's got Bitmo Jillian and she's got videos. And I put a lot of multimedia because that's what I like. But I have the same version on my website, but it's stripped down, different title, different meta description. Meta description is sort of how SEO finds things. And, I do that differently. But it was amazing that I could take my data archive and then I had the article and for each single thing as a PDF, and I could pop it into ChatGPT and have ChatGPT help me restructure it. So I think that's a really good thing to know that you can do that. So with that, I probably should, I'll do one more question. Okay. So Jeff says, Debbie, folks should also add their newsletters in their feature section. Yep. And it comes with the subscribe button. I love that. That's a brilliant, brilliant feature. Okay. So that does it for me today. And always fun to do these lives. I think I have to do lives more than once a month because I get in here and they're like, oh, there's a new thing. And I think that's what I hit today. I hit a wrong button because I haven't been here for a month. So it's just like, oh, so I think I might have to make a commitment and start doing like just, I don't know, an impromptu live and stuff. Thinking about doing some behind the scenes lives. So maybe I'll think about doing that. So anyways, thank you for everybody who joined me today. I hope you at least picked up one nugget of wisdom. And if you have any other questions, please put them in the comments. I will continue to now go in and answer comments, any comments that I missed. And for anybody who didn't enjoy the beginning because it was choppy, I hope you come back and watch the replay. So there you go. Thank you for being here today, and we'll see you all next month. Okay, bye everybody. Okay, that's weird. The videos aren't working today. So that's what's not working is the videos. Okay, I am ending the stream now. Bye everybody.